Hello and welcome back to Those Astrology Girls. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Keelie.
And today we're going to be talking about a really cool planetary change that we've previewed before. So Saturn is moving into Aries and it joins Neptune. And this is a big deal because the last time this happened in Aries, I can't even find when it happened. I've looked a lot, and this is a huge new start. This is a new era. We've talked about this in our 2025 astrology episode, but when these two planets are moving into new signs, it's always a big deal, right? But even more so, they're moving together into Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So this really is the new page. Scratch that. It's a whole new book of life that we're about to open and experience together. I'm really excited for this transit. How about you, Keelie?
Yeah, I think, this is a turning point that we are navigating in 2025. We have had a lot of big astrological stuff happening this year. I mean, we all know and we've talked about, and the world of astrology talks about, just about all of the big changes that are happening in 2025 astrologically. And this is one of them. And just like Nicole said, not only because, yes, Saturn is entering a brand new sign, it changes signs around every 3 years, but because it is re-entering the very first sign of the zodiac, Aries, which it hasn't been in, for 30 years now. So for those of you who have Saturn in Aries and were born with Saturn in Aries, you're about to navigate your Saturn return. And so, yeah, there's a lot for us to dive into. And we talked about Neptune entering Aries previously. There's been a lot of Aries stuff going on, which Aries, the sign of the entrepreneur, I'm like, I could use some of this like entrepreneurial energy, but we are just learning a lot about too, just this energy of Aries that we are in right now. There's a huge emphasis of Aries energy. And yes, it's the entrepreneurial energy, but it's also just this, as the first sign of the zodiac, it is so focused on the individual, our independence, who we are as this individual out in the world, taking action. And it's almost this like childlike energy as well, where we're just going for the thing. So a lot of emphasis on this energy this year, and a lot for us to learn because Saturn is all about learning things.
Exactly. And we already talked about Neptune entering Aries and just kind of our like little reflections on that, and prefacing all of this with, we've never lived through that before. So this is all new to us. We don't know exactly how it's going to go down. All of the predictions that are showing how it worked out in the past, well, all the signs in the zodiac wheel have changed. Planets have moved, so we don't know how this will work out, but what we can do is talk thematically about what all of these things could mean, especially for the collective, and then especially personally if you have planets in those cardinal signs of Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, because those are like kind of activated in this time. And then also if you've got those planets in early degrees of Aries or late degrees of Pisces, and how you might be feeling at this time. I love what you said about the childlike energy, because you know how they say kids grow up so fast? They're like, oh, wow, they were just born the other day and now they're like doing all this stuff. That's like Aries energy too. It's very fleeting. It's very fast. It's initiatory. It's bold, but then it's gone before you know it. So that's kind of like what I'm excited for this, is this like really fast ingress of like new energy and then seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings us into just this first conversation, which is, yes, this Aries energy. It is bold. It is fast paced. It is ruled by Mars. And as we know, Mars is the planet of drive and taking action and chi energy. In human design, a lot of the ways that I like to think about the Mars energy and the way that Mars is talked about, though, is that it is a maturing energy. It starts out immature. And so if you think about it, there is this immaturity in the way that sometimes Aries can operate, that there is opportunity for, in this Aries energy, for it to become maturing, for us to learn through taking action, right? But like, think about this Aries energy. It's childlike. It's can be impulsive. It's just like, let's just go, let's dive into the thing. Let's just do it and see what happens. Saturn is like totally not that vibe. Saturn is the, if Aries is a bit of like the impulsive, a bit of sometimes the immaturity of just like the child immaturity energy, we're like, I'm just learning and I'm just going for it and we'll just see what happens. Saturn is like the wise, guide that is coming in with all of this maturing energy. Like Saturn is the mature planet of the zodiac. It is the old professor, so wise. And so that energy with Aries energy is such a contrast. It's like Saturn's coming in and almost is like, let me come in and bring this maturity and build these structures. And Aries is like, no, I don't want to worry about the structure. Like, I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. Like, who cares about step A, B, C, D, E? Like, Aries would more be, let me be M, Z, W, B, X. It would be like all over the place. And Saturn doesn't know what to do with itself like that. It's like, what is going on? And the way I was kind of thinking about it too is if you think about maybe the it's like that teen spirit also. Like Aries is kind of like that teen spirit, like a bit rebellious. Like I'm just gonna kind of pave my own path and go my own way in this world. And I'm brave and I'm bold and I'm courageous. And like nobody's gonna tell me how to do and what to do. And so there's a bit of this like rebellious teen spirit. And then perhaps there's this mentor energy, this like wise mentor coming into the picture. I'm like building out this like movie plot here, but like the wise mentor comes in and guides the way for this like teen spirit. And it's almost like together, okay, yes, like sometimes there can be this contrast, but also it's like that movie where like that teen spirit like changes the world because it then becomes this like wise being, but also has this rebellious, brave, courageous spirit. There's so much for us to play with here.
Totally. I feel like you just described like every like camp rock movie that I've never seen, but it just felt very inspirational and like they're all like doing their own thing. But that makes so much sense because Aries really is that very interesting and important energy. We need this, and ruled by Mars, like it is very important for us to evolve in this way. But Saturn, you know, we've talked about Saturn plenty of times on the podcast, and especially if you're an Aries, Saturn and Aries person, go listen to our Saturn return episode because it's going to help you out a ton to work with this energy and just understand what you're getting into. Because the Saturn return is a rite of passage. And I feel like Aries energy is a rite of passage. We encounter it many times in our lives, and it's like that spark of like, you know, coming of age novel, like you just kind of described with like these movies, like this teen spirit. It's just super important for us to have that experience to guide our lives and like how it will go. But I also think too, okay, Aries energy, Saturn energy, totally different. You know, they're kind of on different spectrums, but they come together in this like loving way when they're accepted and people can get their arms wrapped around it. But then we also have Neptune in the picture. So this changes the complete flavor of everything. And when you were describing this like movie, all I could think about was, have you ever seen Grace and Frankie?
No, but it pops up on my Netflix all the time.
Okay, it's a great show. I haven't finished it because I'm bad at finishing shows. But what I will say is that Grace and Frankie are so different, but they became best friends because their husbands fell in love. Left.
Oh my gosh, wow.
That's like in the first
I had
episode.
no idea that was the plot.
Yeah, like I didn't ruin anything. They were together like all their lives because their husbands were attorneys together, and so they had like a vacation house together, and their families were just very different. And so Grace is like so polished and just very like, in my mind, Saturn, you know? She's like very like, these are the rules, this is how we show up, this is how we, you know, show up in the world, and like disciplined. And Frankie is like the wild hippie mom who lived in a yurt, you know, and she's just so fun, and she's a painter, and she's very nebulous, so very like Neptune energy. And so I think of the two coming together in this transit, in this time, which we will start to experience in late May 24th, will be so interesting. It'll be so interesting in this like chaotic sign of Aries that's just giving us this different thing. So if you've ever seen Grace and Frankie, you can think of like the dichotomy of the two of them, like how different they are, but coming together, they've formed this beautiful friendship and this beautiful love and this evolution at this stage in their life. And that's what I think we're in for with this transit.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of jumped right into it. And then you were like, by the way, this happens on May 24th. And I'm like, oh, we should probably go into some of the dates here. Like, me and Nicole just already so excited to talk about this. But like, yeah, so this happens, you guys, on May 24th. So as you guys are now listening to this, we are officially in this Saturn and Aries energy. Now, Saturn is going to be in Aries this year for just a few months. So it's going to retrograde out of Aries on September 1st, where it's going to go back into Pisces, and it's going to be back in the energy that we have been playing in for the past few years before it officially moves back into Aries in early 2026 on February 13th. So What we're talking about today, we're going to be talking a lot about like the story of Saturn and Aries for this year specifically, because Saturn and Aries as a whole would probably be a different conversation that we want to have with you guys in 2026. And so we'll probably do that then. But for purposes of this year, the story that we're playing with is very much tied to this Neptune and Aries storyline as well, because Neptune just moved into Aries. Neptune, as you know, is such a slow moving planet. There's 30 degrees in each sign, and Neptune is just hanging around at what, like 1 degree right now. So Neptune is hanging around 1 degrees of Aries. Saturn moving into Aries, like they're going to be right there around the same exact degree, which is a really powerful conjunction between these two planets, both of them right there at around the exact same degree of Aries. This is a really important time. And so this Neptune and Aries storyline very much is playing into this Saturn and Aries storyline. I was listening to the astrology podcast, Chris Brennan and Austin Coppock. And Austin, the way that Austin was describing this Saturn and Aries for this year is he likes to talk about them in terms of like episodes or like bigger shows, and I'm such a showgirl, so I'm like, yeah, like I speak that language. But for those of you who are kind of familiar, you've got your teaser, and then maybe you've got the pilot episode, and then you've got the full-blown series and the series finale and all the things there, right? Well, what we're really dealing with this year is like, this is the pilot episode. We are experiencing the pilot episode of Saturn and Aries. And then after the pilot happens, September 1st, the pilot ends, and then we've got some time. We've got a break in this Saturn and Aries storyline until the full series picks up on February 13th. So that's just one way that you guys can think about it, is like once Saturn enters Aries on, again, May 24th, we are officially seeing this pilot take place, and we are experiencing what this energy has to tell us about the rest of this year. And specifically in this pilot, we're going to see a lot of Neptune influences.
For sure. And what's so interesting about the pilot episode is like, I think it's so funny when you watch a pilot and then you're waiting for the rest of it to come out, and then suddenly there's like a character change because like something happened, or like a contract where they got busy. And so like when we have this gap between September and February, like there could be some character changes, there could be some things that happen, like the pilot may get really funded, we could get a really upgrade of the costumes and all of that kind of stuff. And so with it, both planets, Saturn and Neptune, hanging out in Pisces for a bit, it's a great time. Like, we're getting this preview pilot, and then we have some time to kind of clean up the energy that may be still lingering for both of these planets in Pisces before it just sails right in February to the new era. So it's super cool.
Well, and I think too, sometimes you watch a pilot and it ends on this major cliffhanger, and you're like, oh my God, what did I just watch? Like, I'm eagerly waiting for more. Like, I think that we are going to be left with, like, it's going to be a pretty big pilot episode. Like, we're going to be like, okay, here we go. And then you're going to have some time to process, in this break before we, step back into the full series. But, just thinking about to this pilot episode, having this Neptunian energy, it's interesting. I was thinking about this and I was like, Neptune rules Pisces. Saturn has been in Pisces. So Saturn has kind of been playing with this Neptunian-like energy. And if you think about, again, kind of, Saturn rules Capricorn. And what we know about Capricorn energy, what we know about Saturn is it is very structured. It's very disciplined. It's very much about, building structures that are long lasting. And so with Saturn and being in Pisces, again, ruled by Neptune, being all about, dreams and higher hopes and higher consciousness and oneness and the collective. But, it's this very watery, it's the final sign of the zodiac. It's very watery. It's very sensitive. It is like your sensitivity is tapped into on this like emotional level. It's tapped into, the collective, the greater collective in this world. And so with Saturn wanting to be so disciplined and wanting to give structured in an energy where there is no structure. I mean, it is like the full-blown ocean. You can't box an ocean in, Like Saturn really struggled to create the boundaries it wanted to create while it was in Pisces. Okay, so now that Saturn is in Aries, it's like, okay, it is time to take action. Yeah, I spent some time in Pisces. Maybe I really like started to really ground dreams in whatever way that I could ground them while I was in this energy. But now I get to really take some action and really go all in on my dreams. And Neptune is there as well saying, yes, like these are my dreams. Like I am ready to perhaps bring my dreams to life. Like I've got this, I can do this. Saturn is almost taking all this big energy and these like dreams. And it's like, all right, you guys, this is great. And how do we also like bring this down to the ground, to earth? And does kind of bring some limitations in that sense, brings a little bit of a weight to some of your dreams. Like let's bring it into human form here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of like, it's like kids going out into the forest saying like, let's go find fairies. And then like, you kind of know as the parent, like we're likely not going to see any fairies like in the wild. But your kids may have these experiences that they feel like they've seen this. And I feel like that's kind of like the influence of like the parent Saturn, like walking you through the forest with these big dreams and all this stuff, but knowing, you know what, it's starting to get dark out. We should probably head home and make dinner, like that kind of vibe. Even though you've had this most magical day, finding little, pine cones, little things in the forest and like exploring and having that, but still being home in time to take a bath and eat dinner, before it's nighttime. And that's just kind of like how simple it can be. But also too, I was listening to Pam Gregory about her take on this big picture of like what we're moving into. And she called out specifically something very close to me because around my birthday when I was born, the Berlin Wall fell. And that was the time where we had Saturn conjunct Neptune in Capricorn, not in Aries. And so you can see this energy coming together of these dreams, but actually breaking down boundaries and barriers and the things like that into this whole new world for Germany. And so this time can be extremely powerful as well. And so not only on a personal level, but think of the impact that the Berlin Wall falling in 1989 had on the entire world from a hope and a dream perspective, and bringing that illusion of boundaries down. And so I feel like it can go both ways. And so when we play with this whole new energy in Aries, we're like, oh my gosh, like what could this possibly hold for us? And so I encourage anyone listening, this is not a scary thing. This is really meant to be like, what do you want to do? How are you going to show up for it? And then what faith are you going to hold that it can actually happen? And all those three things together, how delusional are you going into something from a childlike wonder in a good way? They say Delulu is the Salulu sometimes, but don't worry, because Saturn's going to be there kind of making sure you don't fall backwards and like hit your head, So it's like I think it's a nice transit to work through. And of course, I'm maybe biased because I was born under the same conjunction of time. And I think we're in for a really powerful time.
Yeah, this placement of like Saturn being in Aries with Neptune and, breaking down barriers, we can on an individual level also think about, okay, Neptune being the planet of beliefs, of faith. Like, yes, we have beliefs about ourselves even, right? And sometimes those beliefs are limiting beliefs, right? And so it's also looking at what is real. Saturn is asking the question of what is real. Neptune is very connected to what's not real. Saturn is connected to what's real. And so when you're bringing those two together, you're going to have a little bit of this like back and forth of what's real and what's not real, right? And from that perspective, it can be Saturn can be really great in the sense of coming in and saying, hey, in this energy of Aries, like we're ready to take action. We're ready to go for the thing. We're feeling courageous. We're feeling bold. Like we're even a bit delulu in the sense we're like, we've got this. Like we're going to achieve this and we're going to just go for it and it's going to be great. But maybe too, we've been operating under these limiting beliefs that have been holding us back from being able to do that thing. And so Saturn can really come in and in a similar way, break down those limiting beliefs saying none of that's actually real. All these things all these stories that you were believing about yourself that weren't actually serving you, like none of those are real. That's not what's real. Here's what's real is this about yourself, and really empowering you in this sense of let's now create this long lasting change. Yes, in the sign of Aries. So it's going to be a little bit challenging from this like timing perspective because Saturn wants to go slow, Aries wants to go fast. But like ultimately, Saturn is going to really help you break down all of these stories or all of these beliefs that maybe like haven't been serving you. And that's it, so that you can move forward, so that you can be in this Aries energy, step into your own independence and embrace your own dreams in this world and take action on those dreams, Neptune and Aries.
I love that. And it's exactly what you said, and how you said it. I heard it like opposite in my mind, because like it's what you were meaning is like what you've been told has been real, the limiting beliefs, is actually not real. And all the things you were told are not real. I don't know, fairies, whatever, you can fill in the blank here. Confidence, success, all of these things actually is very possible and very real. And Aries energy gives you the confidence and like the trailblazer attitude to actually go forth and claim what's always been yours, what's always been inherently in you. You just have to break down the wall between you. And usually the wall between you and what you want is actually you, which is always kind of very fascinating. And then you're just like, okay, well, this version of you can like take a seat, and I'm just gonna like walk around and be like, oh my gosh, look at this amazing stuff on the other side. So brilliantly said. I love that, because this is really a time of like making it happen, but also being ready for like off-roading a bit, you know, like it might not be bumpy in such a bad way, but like I'm just imagining when you see people like traveling to like a remote destination and they're like, oh my gosh, this road is really bumpy, but they get there and it's like pure paradise, and they're like, oh wow, this was so worth the crazy bumpy ride to get to this amazing place. And I think that's what this transit will give us. And this, like Keelie said, is the pilot episode. So we've got these 3-ish solid months of enjoying it. And I also think it's funny that it happens like kind of right around Memorial Day in the United States, which is like the unofficial start to summer, and then ends like right around Labor Day. It's kind of like the summer of Saturn and Aries. Not the summer of love, maybe it could be, but it's just like, wow, it's going to be that summer we'll never forget.
I love that. How do you see this energy for you? Like based on kind of like, because I think when we're working with these transits and when we're understanding these transits, one, looking at where Aries is at in your own natal chart, because that is going to really help you understand the area of your life that is going through this major shift right now where, you know, you are connecting to higher consciousness. You are tapped into maybe the ideals and your dreams. And at the same time, there's action to be taken in this area of your life. And Saturn is really coming in to bring the responsibilities around how to make this actually happen. Like, you've been saying with Saturn in Pisces that you want this thing. You've been dreaming about this thing for so long. Okay, so like it's time to take the action, but this isn't just going to be this joyride that you think, because Saturn's here. Saturn is promising responsibility, is promising some hard work, is promising some discipline. So as much as your Aries wants to just spread your wings and fly freely and never have anything tying it down, that's not the story with Saturn there. Saturn is saying there is going to be some weight. There are going to be some responsibilities. You are going to need to have some discipline here if you really want to bring your dreams to life, which is so possible. And guess what? Again, with Neptune there, you're tapped into the dream. You've got the creativity. You're connected to the spiritual realm, and you get to use Saturn's discipline to really bring it to life. So yeah, looking at where does Aries in your chart, and then also really reflecting on what's your relationship with Saturn. Because in that area of your life, you know, whether you have planets there or not, I don't have planets in Aries, but with Saturn there, there's an opportunity for me to build something. And the Saturnian in me, you know, I'm comfortable with Saturn. I kind of like Saturn. So I'm like, hey, I'm here to build. I'm here to be responsible. Like, I can be disciplined, but like, let me take a deeper look on like where that's going to show up for me, which is the 8th house. Yay.
Oh, yeah. I just
Deep
love
subconscious
this.
shit.
No, not even. I don't even think it's deep subconscious shit. I think it's helping you evolve into this taboo area of things that you've maybe thought like, oh, well, I can't really like go out in the world and say that this is how I know this thing, or like this is what's going on. And it's not necessarily bad, but I think it's going to have you owning the little bit of the intangible with a discipline that nobody can beat without Saturn. I think that's going to be really fun, and also just really helping other people with their resources and how they're managing their own lives and their own gifts. I think it's going to be really powerful for you and exciting, because the 8th house, I love the 8th house,
You're my 8th house girl.
Yeah. And if you're wondering what like a Saturn Neptune like combination of people looks like, it's like Keelie loves Saturn, I love Neptune, and here we are together. So it's like not necessarily so different. It's just like we come at it from different perspectives. Like we would not have an episode every Monday if Keelie wasn't besties with Saturn. And we'd probably have like 2-hour episodes if I was just riffing on like the intangibility of astrology.
So true. So true. We really do though. It's like, I think Nicole and I, we talk about this a lot of like just bringing our own gifts and what does it look like for two projectors to create a podcast. And there is some structure, but at the same time, there's also this flexibility in the way that we're approaching bringing these episodes to you guys. And it's not always comfortable. Like, Nicole and I are really working with each other's energies of like, I know Nicole is more in this area and Nicole knows that I'm more in this area in terms of just how we operate and work and plan and organize or not. And so we're both kind of just exploring the way that the other person operates, and it ends up becoming, I don't know, it's expansive. It ends up being really expansive when you allow yourself to play in both worlds.
Yeah, it stretches both of us in different ways, and I think it just makes us better astrologers. It makes us better people, and it makes us better collaborators, and it's really cool to see. But I cannot wait to watch these 2 planets hit your 8th house and like see how that really plays out for you, because like mine is hitting the 5th house. And so it's so funny because what have I wanted for so long? What has the dream been? To have a baby. And that baby's coming in hot, while Saturn is in Aries, and you're like, Saturn's asking you to bring the responsibility and all this stuff. And it's like the 5th house rules children. And it's totally exactly what we're embarking on in this journey.
Yeah.
But also self-expression and like all these other aspects of things. And I feel like over the past year, I've really leaned into my own self-expression in my business, not just like putting together this like thing that makes sense for the public. Like I'm me, I'm raw, I'm real. I'm honest about my gifts. I'm honest about what I bring to the table, and not trying to fit into the box that I was in the beginning, because, everyone tries to like, I'm just going to do this thing and I'll be successful. And so I find it interesting because not only am I going to have to be disciplined and show up and responsible to be a mother, because like you're taking care of another life, but it's going to require a different level of responsibility and very Saturnian energy to show up in my business, with a child. It's just different. My time will not be fluid like it used to be. So now I have to just work in a different realm. And I think a lot of people say as parents, you become really efficient. And I think I'm like, okay, thank you, Saturn, for being there, for helping me push into this efficiency and this responsibility, while also still holding on to the intangibility of Neptune in all of my dreams, which is the reason I started with my business, is because I wanted to be present for my children, even though years ago they were just an idea. And now here we go, like we're about to welcome the baby into the world. So for me, it's so literal. I can see it. And of course, I'm sure this transit will surprise me, especially when it gets to my moon in Aries very later, and maybe in 2026, 2027. But for now, I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. And usually it doesn't hit me that obviously, but we'll see what it has to offer. The pilot episode is, the makeup artist is doing the final eyeliner touch-ups. I think we're ready.
Yeah, this is why Nicole and I wanted to start this podcast, is because just having this awareness of like where these things are happening in your own life. I mean, a lot of times astrology it's already so aligned. I mean, it's always so aligned for the most part. Like, and then you discover like, oh, this is actually happening. And you're like, wow, like I'm so aware of like this story already playing out in my own life. And it just allows us to really just deepen into just our own human experience and understanding the lessons we came here to learn as a soul. Like Saturn brings lessons. And in this 5th area and this 5th house of children, I mean, like what's a more spiritual experience than like having children, like birthing a baby into this world. And then, it's really fascinating to think about. And taking a look too, like what are your planets in the early degrees of Aries, because Saturn coming into Aries is going to be activating those, which means those aspects of you are going to be learning lessons. Nicole said she's got a late degree moon. And so over the course, of the next couple of years, as Saturn is moving through Aries, and once it hits her moon, like she's going to be learning lessons around that aspect of herself, right? And so perhaps that's when you've got a toddler. I don't know, right? But like,
yeah, the terrible twos turn on. I'll be like, oh my gosh.
Nicole's going to be an emotional, perhaps mess. Who knows, right? That's not fair for me to say. But,
No, I'll be a firecracker emotional mess. I'll be like, you sit down.
And your little kid is going to have so much Virgo, is be like, you can't tell me what to do. Or it's going to have, it's going to have a Saturn in Aries. Actually, will it? Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saturn in Aries, a Neptune in Aries, Virgo South Node. I mean, we can look at all the outer planets and generally know where her chart's going, and it just is fascinating. But what's really fascinating, I texted Keelie this, like, a lot of conjunctions she will have in her chart. My husband and I have the exact same ones, just in different signs. And so it's like, we're birthing a little, like, evolved mirror to show us, all of these things about ourselves and help her realize them about herself. So it's like, I was like emotional about it. It's like, this is so beautiful. But I'm also like, oh my gosh, I know what this means for me as a person to watch someone else grow and to steward her growth, knowing that she has this astrology and just like letting her figure it out. So it's kind of like a double whammy.
Yes. Okay. So Nicole, I would love to hear, because you've got, you're familiar with Saturn conjunct Neptune, right?
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, how do you feel like this dynamic has kind of played out in your life? Because I think even just your personal understanding of this dynamic can also just help us understand as a collective and even as an individual, a lot of the energies that we're going to be just experiencing in the background.
Yeah, I've been trying to think more into this about how this is for me in my life, because like born under this conjunction, and exactly like my degrees are exact within minutes of each other. Wow. So when we think of this, we're talking, I was like born in 1989, but in February of 2026, we will have this same exact closeness of these planets. So I'm really like season 1 of this transit versus the pilot episode. And I'm thinking about it as like, I have been really structured, but also like keeping the door open for like excitement, miracles, and faith. And I feel that like I oscillate between the two. And what I can say in my own life is when I've over-indexed on one or the other, that's where things get out of balance. So if I over-index on working so hard, overworking, proving my worth, very Saturnian energy in a shadowy way, like just like I have to be the best, I can't mess up, I have to do all these things, like work harder, my life gets out of balance in a different way. I completely lose the Neptune faith. I completely lose that beauty and magic that is in the unseen when I've over-indexed on one side. And then the same happens when I just go, oh, it'll all work out, don't worry, and I just like don't do anything, like, because that can happen. So if I'm on that side of things, which is like overly in a Neptune shadow, disassociating, just like hoping and praying that things will work out versus making action, then I'm also out of whack. So there's really something interesting to say about finding the balance of these two planets and like being okay with showing up, working hard, but also having the unknown and leaving space for the beauty, leaving space for the magic to show up. So maybe it's like I don't want to say a 50-50 because I think people really struggle with that. And I think Saturn in Aries is such a quick transit, like 2 years compared to Neptune, that we need to be like 60-40. We need to be like, okay, we're going to show up and do the thing. We're not just going to not take action, but we're also going to leave room for that beauty and that faith. Kind of what we talked about in the Gemini season podcast about leaving your schedule like a little bit open, because we have the tendency to fill it up, especially in Gemini season. The same thing exists in this transit. Leave a little bit of space open to experience that magic that Neptune will offer, but show the heck up for your dreams.
Yes, I love that. And as you were talking too, I was thinking like, ultimately when Saturn's coming in and it's making some kind of conjunction with another planet, I almost see it as like, this is where Saturn, like this is an aspect of you that Saturn wants you to work on in this life. Like I have Saturn conjunct my North Node, and the way that I've always seen that was like, I am here to, like, I came into this life needing to put in the work towards my North Node. It's almost like not an option. It's like whatever Saturn is like touching even in your own chart is saying, you came here, you made a promise to yourself to work on this, to put in the work here. And I'm even thinking too with your Neptune and like being at that exact degree, it's like, wow. But like, and I'm just curious, like, in what way do you feel like you really came here to work on this Neptunian aspect of yourself? Like, what is that work?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's having faith in like life in general, having faith in other people, having faith in myself, and then also too connecting with my intuition, connecting with the unseen. I can't prove what I know 90% of the time, maybe like 70% of the time. I can't prove exactly what I know, but it's still valid and it still makes sense. And from a young age, I knew a bunch of things and I would say them. And then, you know, with time, it becomes more like not acceptable to have those opinions or have those thoughts or have those visions, right? Like as an intuitive child. And so that was hard because I kind of lost faith in that unseen realm. And what's so funny to me is like, I never watched cartoons. I never really enjoyed that kind of stuff. And so I feel like from a young age, I was already pushing away that like magical realm of things and the unseen and all of this if it couldn't be proven. And I think Saturn was like, okay, but like you're going to be a lot happier if you actually just embrace this side of it and show up. And so for me, I think having that faith and cultivating it was not natural younger. And it took me a long time, post Saturn return, of course, for me to really get the gist and see how that, especially in Capricorn, could help me evolve beyond the old structures of the world. The ones that we haven't seen yet fully come to fruition because that's what we're here to build. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And it even has me further thinking about too, you know, while Saturn is moving through Aries for at least a good chunk of this time, we're now where the North Node is in Pisces. And so where we are being asked to progress as a collective is towards this Piscean energy, again, ruled by Neptune, which is about having faith. It is about letting go of control, letting go of the need to know the plan, and moving in the direction of having faith, having trust, being surrendered. So if you think about it, the Saturnian energy too, you know, all of this is playing with one another. All these energies are coming together, but it's almost like, can we find stability? Can Saturn find stability in the unknown? Exactly like what you said, right? Can Saturn build in this really surrendered way while having this deeper faith and this deeper reason and this deeper meaning behind the life that it's living, and not always needing to have the exact plan, like letting go of control, right? Like Saturn is not necessarily, like Saturn is the maturing wise energy, and the wise old being does not necessarily feel like it needs to be holding on to control in everything in its life. It's not about having control, you know? So like letting go of those Virgo controlling tendencies and really deepening into what does it mean to build stability on a foundation of faith and trust and being surrendered. I feel like that is so much of this Saturnian energy paired with Neptune in Aries with this North Node in Pisces.
Right. And if you would have told me that like 10 years ago, I would have laughed like loudly. Like, oh, give up control of the plan? Like, no, of course we have to have a plan. You know, like I have an X year plan and a this year plan. And you know, what's so funny is like, if you would have told me that what I'm doing now would have happened on this timeline, once I decided that I needed to have faith in this timeline, I would have been like, no way. Like, that's crazy. That's too long. But everything had to unfold in a way that it did for me to be exactly where I'm at now. And I feel like you could probably say the same exact thing about your own life of like, you know, oh, all these things happen. And then like, different catalyst events created different opportunities for you to choose a new path. And then like you have to put in that work, that Saturn energy, and then also really hold that open space for the intangible, the ephemeral, the, you know, fleetingness of Neptune's energy, the fog on the beach. You know, like you're trying to get to the Ferris wheel and you're like, I know there's a Ferris wheel just down the beach, but I can't see it. Okay, well, as you get closer and closer, you're going to start to see the lights and you're like, I think that's the Ferris wheel, you know, and you keep walking. That's like Neptune energy. You have the faith that it's there. And I think that there's so much to that. And it's like being born under that transit never felt so real to me than it did right now, because I'm like, okay, so we're going through this exact transit again. And, you know, I also have many other aspects to it. So I feel like there's a lot of planetary energy in my chart, like pointing toward this exact aspect. And I'm excited for people. One, if you're born in 1989 or close around there, you're also experiencing this, and even early 1990, because it's not exact at that time, but you're within 1 to 2 degrees. So this will be activating for people around 36 to 35 years old right now. You know, this is your time. We're reactivating this energy we were born with. This is our time, you know, in Aries. Like, holy crap. Talk about powerful stuff.
I'm just like, I'm over here just like, I feel like my mind is being blown around all of this because I'm just like, wow, like I feel like I'm just, this energy is so unique. And even to just hearing all of your reflections and your own embodiment of this energy, I feel like even unlocked such a deeper understanding for me. But like, you know, if we think about just kind of rounding all of this together, one, Neptune's faith in the dream, having faith in the dream, right? Right now, really thinking about what is that dream that you have? You connected with it with Saturn and Pisces. It's been there. Mm-hmm. And now Neptune's in Aries, and we've got this fire that's fueling this Neptunian dream of ours that might be a little bit delulu, and that's okay. But it's like, okay, can you have faith in the dream? Like, what is your dream? Can you have faith in it? Can you hold on to that dream with this like childlike Aries energy, right? Because that's where this Aries energy comes in. And then Saturn is asking you, can we give ourselves permission to not necessarily feel like we always need to rush towards this dream? Aries wants to rush and Saturn's not going to want to rush. So it's like, let's take action in alignment with Aries because that's what Aries wants. But can we be a bit slow about it? Can we have faith that it's all going to work out in the end? And that as long as we are operating under this foundation of our deeper faiths and beliefs, can we still slowly work towards these dreams while having trust and faith that it's all going to be there? It is already there. In the 5D, it's already done, right? Can we have faith that it's already done? And that it just takes sometimes this human experience a little bit of time to catch up to what's already been birthed in the 5D. Like, that's just what I'm just feeling.
Yeah, and I'm feeling like when you said this dream you've held close, I'd say I'd argue you've held this dream close. This dream maybe had a spark in your mind in December of 2020 when Saturn and Jupiter were conjunct while Neptune was in Pisces. Like, that's just such an interesting time. Like, a lot of people feel like that was a really powerful time. I remember exactly where I was that day because I was scouting out a place to look for the conjunction because it created a beautiful star in the sky and I wanted to see it because we could see it from where I live. And yeah, I just feel like it was this thing that like happened around that time, in and around that time. It doesn't have to be exactly on that day. You've been holding whatever this is really close to you for a while and you're like taking action, dreaming about it, being here, and now you're going to be about it. Right? Like, you are going to fully be about that dream in this time period for the next 2.5 years and really let it take over because like this is, like Keelie said, it's already done. You know, you wouldn't have the dream if it wasn't possible. It's really big stuff. I'm like, wow, we're so woo about this. But I'm like, we came in like Saturn, okay. And then we're like, the dream is yours.
It's already done in the 5D. But that is totally Saturn. Like, Saturn limits us. And, you know, being human sometimes, like, we came here to be human, right? We came here to have the whole human experience. But yeah, we're being so woo-woo about this. So, but if you're listening to this, you are woo-woo. So it's okay.
Yeah, I feel like and like I said at the start, like there may be other people talking about this time as like, you know, in different themes and different lenses, and that's exactly fine. Like, we all have a different theme and lens for how we're seeing this time, but as you know, those astrology girls experts, you know, for the girls, we're here to give you our lens as well in our own way, and so we hope this was like helpful and inspiring to you for like this beautiful new chapter that we're entering. And I feel like we're always talking about these beautiful new chapters we're entering, but there's no coincidence that in October of 2024, when Keelie and I connected about just astrology in general and all these things, that like a podcast was born. Kind of like we knew 2025 was going to be big astrologically, but it wasn't like our MO. We weren't like, oh, because this is a great year to talk about astrology. We were just like, we should talk about this. And then here we are. We're like, wow, that was really interesting timing for us to deepen into like this whole world and have these conversations.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in with us today. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something about this Saturn and Aries pilot episode that we are officially now experiencing this year. Nicole and I love being here, love chatting with you guys. Please reach out to us on Instagram and also on TikTok. Connect with us, share the episode with your friends, with your family members, with anyone that you think would really enjoy learning about the astrology alongside us astrology girls. Thanks again, and we will see you guys next week for another episode. Bye for now.
See you soon.